Aquarius, welcome to your June 2020 Astro Alchemy. It's Raina here. So every June, the sun is in Gemini for several weeks out of the month. And if you reflect back on previous years, you might say, you know what? I always have a good time in June. You could say a lot of people do in the Northern Hemisphere because that's when the weather tends to be very good. So that might not be that might not be proof of anything, but definitely with you, when the sun is in Gemini, what we're talking about is the fifth house. And Gemini is a fellow air sign. So there is this trine effect or angle that is happening, and that makes everything smoother flowing, if you will. And the fifth house is the house that the sun rules. So the sun is in its own house, and the fifth house is about fun, pleasure, you could call it. And this involves dating and a little hubba, recreational sex. I'm just saying that like off the top of my head. But art, creative pursuits, I should say. Children in general, conceiving children, but also dealing with children. So whether they're yours or whether they are, some sort of job that you have that involves children, even if it's something you're going to start or something you're studying, like if you're studying early childhood, then there could be a fifth house connection to that. But first and foremost, I would say pleasure, and it also can be sports. And Venus is retrograding in this house all month long, goes direct on the 25th of the month. So Venus retrograde in the fifth house could have a direct connection to an ex coming back into your life. And this could be one of those situations where you're like, I think that I'm still in love with this person. And, you're kind of chewing on that for a bit. Perhaps you're reconnecting with them. And the other thing, too, is that I want to say that this is the house of dating. And if there was somebody who maybe you found out had a thing for you, and maybe you were involved with somebody else at that time, now you can take advantage of that. The Venus retrograde can be a chance to kind of take advantage of something that you missed out on the first time because the timing wasn't quite right. But definitely you could be going back to something that involves a relationship or an artistic project. Definitely could be that. And in terms of money, because Venus can be about money, in the fifth house, this could be the business that you own. And if you have been thinking of throwing in the towel, if you recently started a business and it seems like it's not going anywhere, you could finally see some kind of, compensation coming to you from a source that was withheld. I'm of the belief that this could have a good, that this could have like a positive impact on people's businesses and money in general. And I say this because at the time that Venus and Jupiter, which is another planet that is associated with money in part, but is connected to it to some degree. That planet went retrograde the day after, I believe, definitely in the middle of May. And I don't look at that as a coincidence. I see that as happening for a reason. And therefore, I feel like people have to, connect the dots about what this could represent. Because as I stated back for the May videos, I really felt like this could be something connected to the shutdown that as places start to open up, the money that was lost starts to come back in. And so some people, everything was on hold, but then it's almost like they get a deluge. They get twice as much because of, they call that potential energy, something that's pent up. And so perhaps this is going to occur to you that the money flows to you from a source that people are revisiting. And so anyway, I'm hoping that it's going to be something along those lines. And let's see what else is happening that is significant. So all month long, Venus is in that sector of the fifth house, and Mars is in another mutable sign. Mars is in Pisces until the 27th. Now, for you, Aquarius, this is your second house. So there you go. There's more connection to other things that I have just mentioned that have a monetary value to them. So the second house of earned income, Mars there, you could be hustling to make money. You could be working overtime. All of a sudden, you have all this work and you gotta, only so many hours in a day to do it. So when I see Mars in the second house, I have to think that money is not far behind. Hopefully you're not expending a lot of energy and making very little money. I don't think that when I see Mars there, because I think of somebody who's driven, and that can lead to, seeing the fruits of your labor. And so that's happening. And another planet that is in Pisces, and it's actually in its own sign, is Neptune. And so Neptune is also transiting through this second house. And on the 23rd, Neptune goes retrograde. Did I just say, it's like I'm talking and I'm not even paying attention to what I'm saying. Neptune has been in Pisces since 2012. Now, obviously, because this is a general reading, I can't say that every single Aquarius person has had Neptune in their second house for the last 8 years. But for those who have had it for years on end, you may have been feeling like you don't have a good handle on your finances. Like you feel that everything is in a cloud of, like a mist or confusion or, what have you. There's a mystery there somehow. And sometimes this can also indicate that the person is earning money through spiritual types of pursuits, or that you've simply gotten into a law of attraction vibe where you're just kind of like, hey, the universe will provide what I need. And maybe you're even living in an alternative situation where you don't have to necessarily earn X amount of money. I think of communes when I think of Aquarius in the 11th house that you rule. And so in those types of situations, there can be what do they call that, where you barter for your, for your goods and services, that you're just doing exchanges, energy exchanges. I'll perform Reiki on you if you give me a dozen eggs or, whatever. And that actually wouldn't be a very good deal, would it? $5 versus, $100 or $75. But, there may be some kind of, like the person with the begging bowl, the Buddhist who goes around, was it called mendicant or something like that? But anyway, at the very least, you may be trying to kind of really do that thing with the law of attraction, so it's made you a lot more connected spiritually to the material plane when it comes to material goods. And when Neptune goes retrograde on the 23rd, you may feel like, this is not what I thought it was. My finances are really different than I thought. If you're in denial over your finances, it may be a rude awakening, but it's actually good, obviously, because then you're going to be able to see what's really happening and not be living in a daze much longer. If it's something that is connected to having more of a spiritual outlook on attracting money to you, this may be a good kind of a balance where you're able to see the practical side of things, because you have to have both. Even if you're somebody who is like, I tend to lack consciousness, and I need to become more embracing of the potential for financial gain. By the same token, you also have to have this grounded attitude, this of like what's really, about handling money properly and being much more practical if you've been impractical for some reason. So it's a good balance. But the real, I think the story of June are the eclipses, and the first one is going to be on the 5th of the month at 15 degrees of Sagittarius. For those Aquarians who are born in the first 15 degrees, this is going to be in your 11th house of hopes and wishes. So this could actually be some kind of... the word that came into my mind was release, but I mean like if you had resistance to something that you really wanted, like a dream coming true, and maybe it can come true because you stopped fighting it and it just like manifested. And, I don't think that always happens that way, but I think it's really cool when it does, because sometimes people, they want something so badly that it's almost like they are forcing the hand of the universe instead of just kind of, it's like putting in your order and then waiting for it and not being impatient. Putting in your order to the universe and then waiting for it to manifest and saying it's none of my business how it happens, what the timing is, but this is, if I want it, it's mine. And for other people who are born in the last 14 degrees of Aquarius, from 16 to 29 degrees of Aquarius, this is actually falling in your 10th house of career, believe it or not. So this can be a definite advancement with career matters, where maybe you've been plugging away, and then you just get a higher promotion than you even thought. This can also be for somebody that requires fame or to be known in their industry, or if this is show business, that they could become famous or have some kind of attention being put on them by others. This is the top of the chart, so it really is your place in this world, your reputation, and it's highlighted when there's a lunar eclipse. On the 18th, Mercury goes retrograde at 14 degrees of Cancer. Again, where this transit begins is going to depend on, whether you're early to mid or mid to late Aquarius. Early to mid, this is going to be, where is this going to be? 8th house. And this could have some kind of connotation with, I'm hoping, no, let me think here. No, this is, no, I have to be careful here. I'm wrong about that. This is 6th house, I think. Wait a minute. Let me double check here. Yeah, this is 6th house. For some of you that are born up to 14 degrees of Cancer, this is going to be in your work house. And you may, if you're in between jobs, you may be like, how come they're not contacting me? I sent in the application, I sent in my resume, and this could be because of the Mercury retrograde. Something is falling through the cracks, something is being held up. Maybe they're getting a lot of applications and it's taking longer. If you've allowed enough time after you have applied, not right away, but you've allowed enough time, then you can always check back and make sure that they got it. For some of you, this is going to, and this is also in the 6th house, this could be about researching about diet. Mercury rules the 6th house, and it can be like kind of doing that. Now, for those of you who are born beyond the 14 degree mark, 15 to 29 Aquarius, this is going to fall in your 5th house. And this could be hearing back from a former love, just like that Venus retrograde. This is a Mercury retrograde. So this is another time, another type of retrograde where you can hear back. Mercury and Venus are both social and they're both personal planets. So they affect us on a personal level. On the 21st, we have a solar eclipse at 0 degrees of Cancer. Now, because it's 0 degrees, unless you're actually born at that degree, just about everyone is going to have this in your 5th house, which is actually really awesome because it's a house of love. All those things I had mentioned, pleasure, creativity, there could be new opportunities in this area in some way. I like the fact that it's 0 degrees because to me, it's programmable. It means that we can really set intentions for what we want. It's a power period. It's coming right at that solstice time, which is the time when the sun goes into, Cancer in June, it goes into. And that, and all the cardinal signs, the equinoxes as well, the sun is going into cardinal signs, and cardinal signs are about action. So you can expect a lot more movement and kind of things happening when we're in that eclipse period, or when, the equinox or the solstice period. As a matter of fact, when we had the lockdown, that was right before the in the northern hemisphere, at least, the spring, the vernal equinox. So these kinds of things, and even the people involved in these things tend to use astrology, I think, in some of their operations. Okay, so that can be very good for starting a new business. I will say that Mercury is retrograde until I think about July 12th. And of course, Venus is still retrograding until the 25th. So you would have to take that in consideration if you were going to launch anything. But so Neptune, like I said, goes retrograde on the 23rd, and then Venus goes direct on the 25th. And that can kind of resolve something within you that's connected to maybe a past relationship, or money from your creative pursuits, or some kind of money from the job the business that you own. So whatever that represents to you, I hope that you are financially abundant in June and beyond, Aquarius, and that you resonated with this. If you would like a personal reading, The link to my online order page is below. I thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.